The Jedi Order was a vast organization with members of various backgrounds, ages, and experience levels, and due to this, there were multiple levels one could attain, all the way from a complete novice to the Grandmaster of the Order. In this video, I'll be breaking down each of these roles and how to achieve them, so smash that like and subscribe button, join the Star Force 1 Discord, and let's get into it. Number 1. Initiate. Also known as Jedi Younglings, these were Force-sensitive children recruited from all over the galaxy who were taken from their homes and families to find new company in the form of fellow initiates at the Jedi Temple. They received basic training in lightsaber techniques as well as studies in the Force directly under Grandmaster Yoda himself, ensuring that they got only the best of education available to them. In order for a youngling to move through the ranks and become a Padawan, they needed to complete a ritual known as the Gathering, which involved going to the sacred planet of Ilum to venture through the ice-cold terrain entirely alone. There, they searched for a kyber crystal that they resonated with through the Force. While on Ilum, they would also face their biggest fears and insecurities, meaning that those who succeeded strengthened their connection with the Force, but those who failed may have shrouded themselves in doubt, making them unable to find a kyber crystal forever. That's not all though, since a youngling would also be required to pass the Initiate Trials, and this was an annual tournament in which the younglings would battle it out against one another, allowing Jedi Masters to see the personalities and capabilities of each student, making it easy for them to choose who and who would not study under them. Once all of these tasks were completed and they were chosen by a Jedi Knight or Master, they progressed to the next rank in the order, number 2, Padawan. Traditionally chosen by a Jedi Knight or Master, but later assigned on behalf of these ranks by the Jedi Council due to the desperate need of Jedi during the Clone Wars, Padawans were given far more responsibilities than younglings, but were more than anything an apprentice shadowing a master of their trade. They would go through combat drills, meditation practices, reflection in the Force, as well as diplomatic missions with their master, and before the arrival of the Clone Wars, Padawans very rarely saw combat. In order to leave their place as the apprentice of a Jedi and become one themselves, Padawans needed to fulfill 2 requirements. First, they had to spend enough time as a Padawan to have learned everything they need. This varied from student to student, and there wasn't a set rule on how long it had to be. Secondly, this is the real test, they had to pass the Jedi Trials. Although later on in the Order's existence, these became a very watered down version of themselves, to the point where any mistake a Jedi Master made could be trials for their Padawans. Originally though, there was a set of very intense trials which one needed to pass, and these were as follows. The Trial of Skill. This required the Padawan to show a level of competency and power in terms of both lightsaber combat, as well as using the Force. The Trial of Courage. The Padawan had to face their greatest fears, even if that meant powering through a situation where certain death is the only outcome. Trials of the Flesh. Originally intended to test one's dedication through physical pain, very reminiscent of a certain group of assassins I know, this was later changed to be any form of physical sacrifice to show one's dedication to the light side of the Force. The Trial of Spirit. This trial was designed uniquely for each Padawan to put them up against their weaknesses and shortcomings to see how they would deal with the situation and whether they had the heart in them to keep pushing and never give up. The Trial of Insight. This was a very interesting trial which involved the Padawan being surrounded by illusions and deceit, usually with there being a riddle which they needed to solve in order to succeed, but every step closer that they got to solving it, more illusions would appear and cast doubt upon them. Once they'd completed their Jedi Trials, they would graduate to the next rank, number 3, Jedi Knight. Fully fledged members of the Order, Jedi Knights were given regular missions from the Council in a unified goal to bring peace to the galaxy. These made up a majority of the Order and as such needed to maintain a certain level of skill and prowess, though following the defeat of the Sith 1000 years before the Battle of Yavin, the Jedi grew complacent and the standards that Knights were held to dropped drastically. After taking on multiple apprentices and training them to the level of knighthood, a Jedi Knight could then move on to becoming, number 4, Jedi Master. A step up from a Jedi Knight, this title is earned when a Jedi Grandmaster thinks you're fit for the role. It means you've got far more experience, are ready for more serious missions, and have shown extreme dedication to the Jedi Order. Every Jedi Knight aims for this rank, but it's a tough journey to prove you're worthy, one which very few succeed in. Once a Jedi reaches the rank of Master, they're not just allowed to, but also expected to do their own studies in the Force, combat, and anything else. In serious situations, Jedi Masters need to be serious, not cracking jokes, and the best way to ensure this is to encourage them to follow the parts of the Order which interest them most. Certain chambers of the Temple on Coruscant, such as the Holocron vaults in the Jedi Archives and the Treasury under the High Council chamber, were restricted to non-Jedi Masters. This precaution aimed to prevent unauthorized access to valuable Order treasures, particularly dangerous Sith holocrons found in the Archives vaults. In 32 BBY, after having left the Jedi Order and lost access to the vaults, Dooku secretly entered the Jedi Temple and used the authorization of Sifo-Dyas, a deceased Jedi Master, to erase data about the planet Kamino from the Jedi Archives. This planet was the location where a clone army ordered by Sifo-Dyas was being developed. Anakin Skywalker deeply desired to access the holocrons of the Jedi Archives, aiming to find a way to save his wife from dying. He had hoped that by being given a seat on the High Council through his close friend, Chancellor Palpatine's recommendation, he would also receive the rank of Master, which would grant him the ability to look through those holocrons. However, as we all know, he was denied the rank of Master, making it the first time in the Council's history that a non-Master sat on the High Council. Number 5. Jedi Battle Master. This was a step above your average Jedi Master, as this title could only be held by one Jedi at a time, and the lone identified Battle Master in canon was Jedi Master Sindralig. This rank was one that all of the members of the Jedi Council had to agree on, as they had one of the most important roles in the entire Jedi Order. Battle Masters were responsible for overseeing the training of lightsaber combat in the Order, as well as managing and selecting instructors who would train groups of Younglings, Padawans, and even Knights. Number 6. Jedi Council Member. This was an exclusive group of 12 Jedi Masters who looked over the rest of the Order. While they worked with the Senate to establish and maintain peace across the galaxy, the Council members also played a large role in promoting Jedi Knights to Masters. The members of the Jedi Council had the ability to do deep-level intervention when it came to the politics of individual planets and places, and while this was traditionally used in a good way, ensuring that nobody in Reach was being exploited, it did take a darker turn as the Clone Wars raged on and the Jedi got desperate for an end to the war. In 19 BBY, after the Separatist conquest of Marahani, the Jedi Council was dismayed by the genocide of refugees seeking to flee from the conflict, so they sought to end the Clone Wars once and for all by assassinating Count Dooku, and Jedi Master Quinlan Vos, a Jedi renowned for his experience with spy-like operations, was assigned to the mission, with the task of gaining the trust of Dooku's former apprentice, Asajj Ventress. However, Vos's personal involvement with Ventress led him to fall to the dark side. This mission ultimately failed, and Vos was captured by Dooku, so Ventress, despite being suspicious, helped rescue him. But Yoda sensed Vos's dark side affiliation, and the Council considered execution for him. Obi-Wan stopped them, convincing the Council to test Vos's loyalty with a second assassination attempt on Dooku. Ventress also joined the mission given their personal attachment by this point. Although Dooku survived, Vos embraced the dark side, committing treason. After Ventress sacrificed herself to save him, Vos returned to the light and vowed to never return to that state of pure evil. Obi-Wan persuaded the Council to forgive him, emphasizing the moral wrongness of the assassination mission that they had sent him on in the first place. Vos was welcomed back into the Jedi Order just before Revenge of the Sith, and this remained one of the most unsettling missions that the Council had ever sent anybody on. The 12 members of the Council rotated, other than the 2 roles who always remained until their rank was passed on to another. The first of these was, number 7, Master of the Order. This was a role which required all current members of the Jedi Council to vote in favor of, and the person who would be in charge of the Council and oversaw all of their duties and missions. This title was held by Grandmaster Yoda and then passed on to his apprentice, Mace Windu. However, once the Clone Wars began, the role of the Master of the Order merged with the final rank, meaning that Yoda alone possessed complete power over the High Council. Number 8. Grandmaster. This was a title reserved for the oldest, wisest, and sometimes most powerful Jedi. The Grandmaster served as the leader of the entire Jedi Order, and at one time was shared between 3 Jedi Masters, but as we all know, it became the title of Yoda alone by the time of the Clone Wars, and he is the most recognized and accomplished Grandmaster. Although Grandmasters would personally train groups of initiates, it was very rare for them to take on a Padawan of their own during their reign as Grandmaster. This meant that those few who had been given this honor would be incredibly powerful and wise in the ways of the Force, since they had the greatest teacher available to any Jedi. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this list of every single Jedi rank. If you did, join the Discord in the description down below. Leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.